I really like how you called it living alongside, because that's really what it is. It doesn't up and vanish. But one of the best quotes I heard about it, something along the lines of, healing doesn't mean that the grief and the pain, didn't happen and aren't there, but it's that it no longer controls your life in a negative way. So you have a way to, exactly as you said, like it's there, but I have peace with it. I can continue to move. It's not kind of holding me back in this
Welcome to the Self-Care Goddess podcast, where healing stories, practical self-care strategies, and science-backed tools to regulate stress, feel calm, grounded, and energized come together to help you reclaim your vitality. I'm your host, Rita Savoya, holistic nutritionist, trauma-informed breathwork coach, and founder of Breathwork Barista. This podcast is for women who are ready to restore their energy and radiance, reconnect with their bodies, reawaken their inner power, and redefine self-care as a way of being. Through science meets soul practices, restorative mind-body tools, and real stories of transformation, we'll explore how true well-being can help you live with more joy, vibrant health, and authentic connection to yourself and those you love. Take a deep breath in, let it go, and let's begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Self-Care Goddess podcast with today's guest, very special woman. I'm so looking forward to talking to her and finding out a little more about her amazing story. So today's theme, from surviving to thriving, practical wellness for real women with real lives. Not wives, lives. So we'll start with a little bit of breathwork meditation. As you know, here on this podcast, we walk the talk. So if you can lower your gaze or close your eyes and really tune out the outer world for just a few moments here. And I invite you to breathe in through the nose, and then let's exhale through the mouth with a slight sigh. So we want to, when we inhale, expand the belly, the rib cage, and really open up, and then slowing down those exhales. So breathing a little slower than usual through our mouth, through a sigh. Inhaling, opening up, and then when we exhale, we want to release and just let go of any heaviness, any tension, any stress. Just let it leave your body with each and every extended exhales. Really tuning in here to any areas of the body where you might be feeling some tension. Let's loosen those areas up by breathing intentionally the exhales out of those areas. Research shows that it actually opens up the capillaries and sends oxygenated blood to those areas just by thinking about it and channeling the exhales. That's it. As you relax a little deeper here with these extended exhales, I now invite you to breathe into the area of the heart. Where attention goes, energy flows. So let's energize this beautiful organ that's keeping you alive without you even noticing it. Let's show some gratitude by breathing deep in and out of this area. And now I invite you, in this space of immense gratitude for your heart, to visualize someone that you're grateful for today, living or past. Visualize this person as if they were right here in front of you. And I invite you to send them all the love, the gratitude, and the appreciation for being in your life. And now I invite you to send this love, this gratitude, and this appreciation, send it back to your heart. Send it back to you for being here, taking the time out of your busy day, busy schedules, to just be here for you, gifting this time for yourself. On your next inhale, flutter your eyes open, a beautiful butterfly, and come back to us. Thank you for participating in that quick coherence technique from the Heart Math Institute. So today on the show, you'll meet Sandra Tadros Guirguis, founder of STG Wellness, a holistic health and wellness consultancy rooted in balance, practical care, and real-life transformation. And she's also the author of Embracing Abundance. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Sandra supports physical health, mental wellness, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and lifestyle change, offering everything from one-on-one wellness consultations to group sessions, corporate talks, and guided programs for lasting change. With a compassionate whole person approach, Sandra helps individuals and teams find clarity, calm, and sustainable well-being. Whether that means navigating stress, improving sleep, adopting healthier habits, or creating a balanced lifestyle that supports energy, resilience, and growth. On the episode, she'll share her journey, the inspiration behind what it is that she's doing, the principles she stands by, and actionable practices you can bring into your everyday life to help you feel grounded, empowered, and alive. Welcome, 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 Sandra. How are you, beautiful soul?
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here, and I loved that meditation. Thank you.
No, thank you for participating in it. That was super quick, like not even 3 minutes, and just see how quick the breath and just mindfulness can just get you into such a beautiful state of receiving, acceptance, and all of that, all that stuff that we very much need these days.
I love that, where the attention goes, energy flows. Just yesterday we were so we have these continuing education learning sessions for healthcare professionals, and this was a respiratory one about something called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and we were talking about inhaler technique doesn't always, that's where sometimes patients are on the right medications for their lungs, they're not using it right. And the respirologist said something I really liked. He said, a lot of times people are trying to, with the dry powder inhalers, inhale, but they haven't exhaled yet. And the lungs can't help. So he says it's actually a way he ties that sort of meditative breathing into his practice. He'll say, imagine a candle at the end of the room and do those 5 deep exhales so that the lungs are completely empty, and then only then can you exhale. So I was thinking, as you were so beautifully guiding us through it, it's so helpful, of course, for our mental health, stress, and all that, but also there's a real practical component for our lung health. And you shared with me the first time we met, actually, that in, I believe it was ancient Chinese medicine, the connection between grief and your lungs. And I was just so blown away. I think the whole week after, I was telling people, how grief is a big part of my story and everything else. And then out of nowhere, I had that asthma attack. That year I was talking to my friend Rita, and she explained that there really is a connection there. So I find all of that and this holistic approach to care, Eastern and Western medicine and ancient and modern, I just think it all ties together so beautifully.
Yes, I completely agree. And yes, so according to Chinese medicine, we hold grief in our lungs. And it was no coincidence that you did have an asthma episode while you were grieving. So tell us a little more about, you tell us what you are comfortable with saying in terms of what's inspired you to write the book and to be on this beautiful mission that you're on today.
Sure. So I think of myself, as I mentioned in the book, as sort of Sandra 1.0 and 2.0. And anyone that's with us today, Rita, I'm sure can relate to, there are sometimes pivotal moments in your life where you almost feel like, okay, something has happened and I'm now no longer the person I was before. That doesn't have to mean that now it's sadder or a different version, just different. So we rebuild in a different way from what we've learned. So for me, happy-go-lucky Sandra, right? For a long time, until grief and tragedy really struck our family. So I had shared with you at the time, I was younger and married, and I had 2 young children, and my husband got sick. and we are both healthcare providers, and logically we were like, okay, this is navigatable, and we prayed, and we, our deep faith played a role, and there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to come out the other end. And so when things didn't go that way and he passed, it left me really deeply shattered and also sort of disoriented in every way. Like, my spiritual life had taken a hit. Like, God, how could you have let this happen? You could have prevented it. My rational mind was now trying to pivot to, okay, now I'm a single mom, one parent, my other half is gone, so there's this new identity, and it was really difficult. And I have spoken to different people about grief and heard their experiences, and although the cause is different, so it's not always bereavement like the death of a loved one, but people have shared with me their experiences of losing their health, a breakup, losing a career path, losing a dream, right? So any kind of loss can leave us feeling very disoriented. And I truly believe, and part of what I'm so passionate about is there's sort of this critical point where we can choose to continue to be sort of upset about our circumstances and let that frustration continue to feed and take us down sort of a resentful path, or we can choose acceptance. Doesn't mean we have to like it, but to accept, and that's sort of all described in that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross grief cycle. We want to accept, and okay, so I'm here, I might not love it, but this is where I am. What can I do? How can I move forward here? And what are sort of all of the tools that I can put into my little satchel, if you will, or my toolkit to move on from here and to not let this be the end of me? Can I change my pain into purpose?
Wow, so beautiful, so beautiful. And yeah, so I read your book, so many golden nuggets in there for sure. And thank you for being so vulnerable and just sharing your story with us, not only in the book, but even today. Because yes, uncontrollable waves of grief, I can totally relate. I lost my beautiful aunt to breast cancer. And it's because of her that I'm doing breath work, by the way, that I'm really focusing on breath work, because it helped me to grieve her passing, but also it helped me to connect with her as well. So she passed in January. I did not, last time I spoke to her was in September, the year before. And I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And through the breathing experiences and breathing sessions, I was able to connect, to say goodbye, to just live alongside the grief, because I don't feel like you get over it. I don't know, it's not something you get over. It's just something that you just carry with you. But now that deep absence that I had in my heart, like a hole in my heart, is now just this loving presence. And even during one of my breathwork meditations, I remember just seeing a flock of birds just flying by. So now every time I see that, I'm like, okay, that's her saying hello or connecting with me. So it's just so beautiful. How there are so many beautiful ways to deal with it, tools. And so can you share a little bit with the audience, what were the go-to that really helped you to live alongside this grief that we have?
I really like how you called it living alongside, because that's really what it is. It doesn't up and vanish. But one of the best quotes I heard about it, something along the lines of, healing doesn't mean that the grief and the pain, didn't happen and aren't there, but it's that it no longer controls your life in a negative way. So you have a way to, exactly as you said, like it's there, but I have peace with it. I can continue to move. It's not kind of holding me back in this like broken stage anymore. So there's a couple of pillars. So we know in terms of like, if we look at the pillars of wellness, there's physical, there's emotional, right? There's social, and there's spiritual. And a lot of times I'll ask, if I'm giving a workshop or something like that, like, are these connected? And people think for a minute and they'll be like, well, absolutely. And a perfect example is our gut health, for example. So you might think like, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm grieving, I'll just have whatever is easy, processed or fast, and that's okay. There's no judgment. But as a lot of emerging research is showing that our gut health is like the second brain. It is directly linked bidirectionally to our brain, right? So when the brain is not good, a lot of us have those symptoms, right? I'm nervous. Oh, I gotta rush to the washroom. And when my gut is not good, it's not synthesizing dopamine and sertraline and serotonin as much as it could, which is our happy brain chemicals. So really understanding that the body's all connected. So simple things like eating probiotic foods, adding kefir and sauerkraut into my diet. And then for the mental health, it was just breathing, because I'd be holding my breath and not realizing it, and then just little things of self-care. So maybe chatting on the phone for just a couple of minutes and giving myself grace. So I think a lot of the times we live in a time where we're so driven by like accomplishments and checking tasks off a list. And I think I just started to reframe that in my mind, like, hey, my goal for today is just kind of to survive, right? Or to maybe get outside for 5 minutes and good for me, instead of feeling like, oh, I should have done this and I should have gone to the gym and should have, could have, it can be difficult. So it was just giving myself that space to start to take little baby steps. And I think those SMART goals is the biggest thing. A lot of times people will tell me like, well, where to start, right? And they have this whole long list of things. And I don't know if you've ever seen those funny memes of like a woman trying to do it all. And she's got like the face mask and the vacuum in one hand and the dumbbell in the other. And she's trying to squat while folding laundry. And it's just, it's a lot. So again, giving ourselves grace, and SMART goals is really picking something that's small, measurable, attainable, realistic in time. So I would start with something like, okay, I'm going to do some deep breathing for 2 minutes with a guided app 3 days this week. And that's it. And I'd feel such a sense of accomplishment. And then I could maybe build on it. And then, you know what? I don't feel like hiking, but I'm going to go sit on the front porch or walk to the mailbox. So just those little nudges. And the cool thing is our brains are pretty wired by two things. There's the mirror neurons. So when you're surrounded by people that are doing healthy behaviors, your brain starts to absorb this. But also we build habits pretty quickly, roughly about 3 weeks. So just getting in the habit of stepping outside eventually evolved to a walk around the block.
Right. Amazing. It's so true. So the really maybe only good thing that came out of COVID was a lot of people started walking more, because that's all you could do, right? That's the only thing that you could do, especially here in Canada. We have these beautiful trails. And so a lot more people started walking. And now it's interesting seeing that 5 years later, almost 6, that people have taken that on and taken that up. And it was just kind of something that they were doing just to do because they were bored and there was nothing else to do. And now it became a habit. So I love how you say that, because I'm big on this practical, like, habit forming. Now you said 3 weeks. What is that the average? Is that like, what do you recommend for someone to stick to their goals? Because it can be so, especially with the weather here, right? You can easily say, it's raining, or it's snowing, or this and that, and then you can easily say, okay, forget it, I missed 1 day, so I'm not going to go back now. That 1 day. So what is your tip on like sustaining that discipline, I guess, maintaining
For sure. I would always say consistency really is key, and start small. So I teach classes at a gym as well, part-time, in addition to the healthcare work. And I always tell people, just get in the habit of come to the gym, whatever it is, right? So whatever you feel is totally doable. So say it's 2 days a week. And there are times where I know people have come and they just sat in the car and answered emails, right? And they'll feel so guilty. And I'll say, no, that's okay. Your baby steps, you're building a habit. And guess what? Every week, right? You got in the habit of coming. Then maybe, and we always say, what's the heaviest or most difficult piece of equipment? And people are like, is it kettlebells? Is it the rows? And I'm like, no, it's the front door of the gym, right? And then it's maybe getting yourself in the building. Maybe it's getting yourself up onto the fitness floor. It's really celebrating the wins and just really focusing on building the habit. And when it was interesting because a big fitness, like our personal training concept that always stuck with me was when you're working with clients, try to get them to focus on like an athletic or like behavior kind of goal instead of the scale. It's more rewarding and they're much more likely to accomplish it. And I experienced this myself. I remember at one point, I was like, and it can be any goal. It can be, I want to eventually be able to do 5 push-ups, or I want to be able to walk 15 minutes. So for me, it was swimming. And I remember, even though I was pretty active on land, anyone that swims will tell you it's like a whole nother game. It's challenging in a different way. Wow. And I remember getting to the pool, and there's like an elderly gentleman beside me. He said, hello. And he gracefully glided like one end, back, one end. Like it was nothing. And I was like, okay. And I flailed and splashed and gasped. I finally went there and back and was like, but I remember my goal was I want to go there and back 10 times. And I kept showing up week after week, eventually adding to it. And what was funny is I got to that goal. It was so easy to stay focused on an accomplishment type goal. I felt really nice about it. And then of course, secondarily, I got stronger in my lung capacity, but I wasn't fixated on those things. I was just focusing on what can my body do? And then I would come home and same thing. I was never trying to punish myself in the workouts for what I ate. I was thinking of that movement as, hey, I'm celebrating what my body can do, right? Yeah. And fueling well. So I think it's how we approach these things has a very big effect versus like, I have to be here.
Right. Yes. I get to do this.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I get to.
Yeah, changing the mindset, the reframing as well. Yes, it's so interesting how we all kind of forget to celebrate those smaller wins. We're kind of just stuck on. I never go on the scale. I don't even know how much I weigh. I'm just like I feel how my clothes fit. I don't need to go on the scale because I'm actually pretty muscular for my height and stuff. So I'd probably be over like the usual weight for my average height. But yeah, it's just how my clothes feel and how I feel, how energetic I feel. And even in terms of like how well am I sleeping, like all these other things that are all related to the workout, right? And actually getting there. And hugely. So if somebody is, okay, they get it, okay? They want to change, they want to implement holistic wellness into their lives. What would you recommend? Where would they start, right? Would they start with the physical? Would they start with the emotional piece, like meditation, breath work, all these mindfulness things, more the spiritual, like maybe joining something that is a little more spiritual? What would you recommend to this person if they were like, okay, which one should I focus on? There's just so many facets, and I know they're all related for sure, but I'm just curious, is there something that you recommend start here, because then it'll kind of be a gateway to the rest of the pillars?
That's such a good question. What I usually recommend, to be honest, is a little bit of self-reflection on their part of what's the lowest hanging fruit for them. Because when we're trying to foster change, people already feel overwhelmed, right? So what's the first win that we can get? Yes, eventually we'll touch all of them, but what matters the most to you? So for example, for me, it was easy. When I'm disconnected in my faith, everything else feels off, right? So for me, I started showing up, back to Bible study, or I'd go to church, even though I was still really upset with God. How did you let this tragedy happen? And for me, when I started like reconnecting, then I could meditate to like a worship song. My breath came, then I would go and take walks. So that all kind of came. I have other people that'll say to me, you know what, when I'm not sleeping well, everything is catastrophic. So then we're like, okay, well, what's an easy thing? Are you getting up the same time every day, 7 days a week? And a lot of times there's like a weekday and a weekend, and we talk about the importance for a circadian rhythm of 7 days a week. Do you think you could set your alarm same time 7 days a week, and we check back in 2 weeks? And a lot of people are like, yeah. And do you think you could put away your electronics an hour before bed? And this is usually when like people start to try to like haggle a little. They're like, well, like, does my iPad count? How about my phone? How about my partner's Kobo? How about how about blue light glasses, right? So we really try to get away from screens an hour before bed, which then, of course, like, yes, we're primarily working on sleep, but that opens up another window of, well, what are you going to do for your wind down? Is that a time for self-care? Do you like to do adult coloring book? Do you want to do some gentle stretching, some breathing? So again, or someone that says, I'm therapeutic in the kitchen. It gives me some people, not me, I hate the kitchen, right? But my husband likes to cook. So for example, someone like him, I'd say, well, what about you start like meal prepping and coming up with 2 or 3 fun recipes? And he might say, okay. And that person started with their gut health. So I think it's important to know they'll all come, but we want people to feel, because when we learn about stages of change, like if I'm trying to help someone quit smoking, for example, the 2 biggest axis that we ask are, how important is this change for you? Right. Most people, it's quite important. Where people fall short, I find, is the second one. How confident are you in your ability to make this change? And that one, when that falls short, it's a little harder versus like, I'm empowered. So I always look at, okay, you're trying to make a change. Where do you feel the most confident, right? Where are you the most confident? And then you start to celebrate the wins. They gain their confidence because now, hey, I meal prepped, or I'm taking care of my sleep, or I'm going on those walks. And then usually everything else can follow a bit easier.
Right. I love that. Okay. So a little bit of self-reflection for sure. What are your thoughts on working out at night? Does that disrupt sleep?
Yes. So there's 2 things to factor. So generally, most research will say when we do like insomnia counseling or anything like that, we want to avoid eating and any kind of moderate or intense exercise at least 3 hours before bed, because it spikes adrenaline and different things. And we all know that rocky moment after a good workout, right? So ideally you finished working out, you finished eating at least 3 hours before bed, because insulin spikes and it can interfere with melatonin, and with exercise, it's all of those thermogenic hormones. Plus it increases our core body temperature, and we actually sleep better in cooler temperatures. That being said, if you're going to do, moderate or more than that, generally try to do it earlier in the day, like early evening at latest. But if someone feels like they want to go for a nice walk in the evening, or do like a gentle flow yoga or something like that, that's probably not going to interfere. It's more like the heart pumping, like powerlifting or HIIT or those kinds of things that we really don't want to be doing before bed, because we're trying to calm everything down, right?
Yes, exactly. And sleep is one of my pillars of self-care too, by the way. And it's so now it's getting a lot more attention. I have to, definitely, I'm so happy about that. But it's one of those things like, oh, I'll sleep when I die, or sleep is for the weak, and it just, especially nowadays, Sandra, I don't know about you, but I need like almost 9 hours. I'm like, what am I, a baby that's growing? Like, what is going on? Especially when the winter time comes around. I just want to hibernate with the bears for 3 months. See ya. Call me in 3 months. I don't know. I think I need more sleep now as I age, but it's supposed to be the other way. No, I don't know.
So I'm with you.
What are your thoughts on that?
I guard my sleep like fiercely. And sometimes same thing, like people are like, oh, why? But when you think about all the things that happen when you sleep, it boosts your immune system, helps with the mood, supports ghrelin and leptin. So you're like your hunger and satiety hormones the next day. Like sleep really is a superpower to really have the best kind of day. And on average, people do need usually somewhere from like 6 to 9 hours. And it varies by person, by season. Your body's doing a lot, or you're in a stressful season, maybe more repairs. I almost just imagine like, okay, the lights are out, and that's where all the little repair people come out, going around and maintaining everything. So I'm with you. My sleep is like a non-negotiable, and all my close friends and family know that. Like something's wrapping up, I'm like, bye guys,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go read for a little, wind down, because I like to read a book in a chair to wind down, and then I'll get to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. My sister's the same way. She'll just leave. She'll be like, later, guys. And so in terms of like, when do you follow? When do you go to sleep? What time? Curious.
Yeah, so I am usually by I would say about 9:30, 9 or 9:30, I'm done everything. Like I've put away my electronics, like lunch is packed, all that kind of stuff, and that's where I'm kind of just doing my wind down stuff, whether that's a warm shower, dim lights, gentle music, reading, that kind of thing. And usually I'd say I'm asleep by about 10:30.
Nice. And then what time do you wake up?
Wake up around 6:30.
Okay. And what is your morning routine like?
So one thing that I'm really careful about is waking up and not grabbing my phone right away. So if you imagine we're in that deep delta wave sleep, so good. Naturally waking up, our brain waves are supposed to go to like theta, then alpha, then beta. But when we kind of hijack it and gosh, forbid pulling that phone in our face before we've even gotten out of bed, you've immediately spiked cortisol and got into reactive mode. So I'm very careful not to do that. I'll get up slowly. I have water by my bedside, so I'll make sure to drink water. And I'll open the curtains and just stand there and take a couple of breaths, say a little prayer or meditation. Even if it's cloudy, we know the sun can still penetrate, and something about that natural sunlight kind of helps our circadian rhythm as well. It's daytime. So that's my general routine. And then usually I will, if I exercise, it'll be in the morning, shower, and then go to work, and there goes the day. Then my teen Uber shift starts in the evening after work. Have my daughter here, my son here, pick him up, pick her up.
That's funny. That's funny. So in terms of what would you recommend someone that cannot fall asleep and it just takes them ages to fall asleep? Tossing and turning, like what are some tips you can recommend?
Yeah. So there's really great handouts on sleep hygiene from like the sleep like institutes. And it's not as it sounds. So a lot of times I'll say sleep hygiene. People are like, what? I wash my pillows. And I'm like, no, it's not hygiene like that. It's a term that means like good sleep behaviors. And there's huge studies that show that sleep hygiene, so non-pharmacological practices, are at least as effective as any of the like sedatives, right? So prescription sleep meds. So we really, really harp them home. And in all the decades I've been working with patients, we find that the vast majority, unless there's really like underlying trauma or anxiety or sleep apnea, like the majority of people, if there's not really a health issue, will sleep well when they adopt these things. So the biggest thing is either they're not turning off their electronics or they're getting into bed and spending a lot of time awake in bed. So our brains have something called paired association. This means that our brains need to connect. Bed is for sleep. If my body is in bed, I am sleeping. So what happens if I slide into bed and I'm reading in the bed, or I'm texting, or I'm thinking, or I'm tossing and turning but awake? So that's actually very harmful, because now the brain's like, okay, so is the bed for sleep? Like I spent half the time in here awake. So one of the conditioning things is bed is only for sleep, and get up and try again. So what we'll tell people is exercise earlier in the day. Stop all caffeine after 12 noon. Put everything away an hour before bed and get up at the same time every day. And then have that wind down time, which is non-electronic. So dimming the lights, signals to melatonin, reading, listening to music, any of these kinds of things. And then only get into the bed when you're sleepy, right? We don't want to just be like, oh, it's 9, hop into bed and then I'm wide awake. That's not going to make me fall asleep faster, and it's going to disrupt that paired association, because now I'm spending time awake in bed. So actually, if you're going to be awake anyway, stay out of the bed. When you feel sleepy, go into the bed. And then for patients that will say, oh, but then my thoughts start to, the rumination.
Me. I was just going to ask you that, because I do go to sleep sleepy, and then sometimes I'm like wired because I started thinking.
Yes. So 2 things usually are culprits. One, we didn't give ourselves a chance to think earlier in the day. So the minute we've slowed down, all those things come flooding. So that's where something like journaling at least 3 hours before bed, whether it's the morning, afternoon, or it's even our social workers will call it like constructive worry, where like you can have a paper and you're problem dumping, like what's in your brain, what's buzzing around, just write it down. You don't even have to have a solution. Or maybe you think about it for a minute, like give yourself a second to unload, like mind dump, literally. All right. And then at night, if that starts to spiral, you're like, well, I've already addressed that for today. And then the brain wants to go somewhere. So where can we tether it? To the breath. So then you count in for 4, hold, out for 6, or whatever timed paced breathing, because then now your brain is focused on like the counts. So that's the idea. Try to like give yourself space to think earlier, and then keep redirecting to your breath. And then the rule of thumb, and another thing we tell people, which is part of sleep hygiene, don't clock watch. So we don't want to even be able to see the clock. The alarm's going to go off when it needs to go off. And people initially they're like, why? And I'm like, well, what happens when you check the time? Oh yeah, you get very anxious. You start to do the math. You start to count backwards. Well, what time is it? How many hours? What am I doing tomorrow? Right? Plus there's the light flashing in your eye. So there's really no reason to know what time it is. But we tell people, if you think it's been about 20 minutes that you haven't been able to sleep, again, for that paired association, the recommendation is to calmly, with the lights still dim, get out of the bed. But again, that might just be sliding to a yoga mat on the floor, to a beanbag chair, to somewhere else where, again, you can go back to your calm down. So with the dim lights, can you listen to music? Or, for me, I have a paper book with a little reading light. And then we kind of recenter again, get back into bed. And usually, in the hundreds of people I've worked with, and we've done this, we've found that, the first couple of nights, they're getting up and in and out a lot because their body's still not used to it. But by the end of the second week, they are falling asleep faster and getting out of bed less frequently. So, and that's not like magic we're doing. This is like a well-established sleep well protocol, right? Of paired association. Stay out of the bed if you're sleeping. So those things generally all put together work quite well.
Yes, it makes sense. It really does. So I invite whoever is having issues with falling asleep to try these tips. Really amazing. Thank you, Sandra. What are your thoughts on melatonin? So like taking melatonin exogenously.
Yeah, so there was actually something I recently posted on my Instagram about, they were looking historically at people that took melatonin chronically, and there was increased risks of like heart disease and heart conditions. There's also over the years been research showing that they're not always pure, so there's been found to be different compounds and things like that. So I don't recommend melatonin generally. There's very small subsets, so neurodivergence. So sometimes children and some adults with ADHD and certain conditions, it can be used for short periods and at lower doses. But I always tell people, talk to your primary care provider, so your family doctor or your naturopath, whoever you see. But for my patients personally, I'm not quick to recommend it, but in select cases we'll use it, because remember, we are naturally releasing melatonin, but that blue light is inhibiting it. So I have a lot of patients that are on their phones, on their devices, and then they try to take the maximum dose of melatonin and it doesn't work because nothing will be as effective as your body's natural synthesis. So there's still possibly a role for it. I just don't recommend it routinely.
Right. And to have a dependence on it, because then the body just gets lazy and says, you know what, that's okay, I'm going to stop making it.
Yeah.
And so, so what are your tips then on people that wake up in the middle of the night?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's sort of the same kind of thing as the can't fall asleep, right? So is it thoughts? So first thing I'll say is, what's waking you, right? And in some people, they can actually identify it. I live in an apartment and the neighbor comes home late and they bang the door. So we talk about like a white noise machine or something like, I feel overly hot. Can we get like sort of cooling, breathable things? And then for some people, it's I wake up because I have to pee, but then I think. So, excuse me. So normal, even when you go for like a sleep study, they'll tell you micro awakenings are very normal. And that's kind of like I rolled over and kind of woke up, or I went to the washroom once or twice. If it's more than that, again, that's something we need to address. Or do we need to limit fluids after a certain time? Do you need to talk to your primary care provider, someone that's going 4 times a night? We have to really look. Is there a bladder issue, a prostate issue? Is something else happening, right? Is it stress? Are you then thinking? Does your mind start to spiral? So same thing. Try to get a hold of it. Can you do the deep breaths? Give yourself 15 minutes or 20 to settle. And if you can't, get back out of bed with a mild cognitive distraction. So that's kind of, again, whether you want to say a meditation or a prayer or an affirmation or any of those non-electronic things that we talked about, and then get back into bed and try again.
Very nice. And even mouth breathing actually causes frequent urination. And I was just shocked when I heard that. I'm like, interesting.
It's
So
very
check,
interesting.
yeah, check if you are mouth breathing, and maybe you can do the tape your mouth, or check out some other videos on how to train yourself not to mouth breathe for sure.
For sure.
And I think recently you also got certified in menopause, right? In terms
Yes.
of, yes. So any tips there for our women experiencing this beautiful transition in life when it comes to sleep?
Yes. So with women, we're seeing like a lot of things, right? So women in midlife, there's the natural physiological things, which can be everything from like brain fog to frozen shoulder to hot flashes to night sweats. But there's also the psychological. For a lot of women, we start to lose muscle mass. So if we're not actively lifting weights, women are losing some of that muscle mass, some of the metabolism. There is fat that is redistributed around the middle, which can cause physical issues as well as psychological. We have to also honor that a lot of times women in midlife are in what's kind of the sandwich generation. So maybe they're having aging parents, or maybe there's children that are getting older, spouses that have medical conditions, or partners or friends or family members. So there's so much going on, and I see it all the time. Women tend to just be like superheroes, right? Trying to do everything and not listening to their tells. And every mental health provider that I've ever met, and one of my very best friends is a psychotherapist, and she always says, kind of like what's in the body keeps the score book, that our body is a dashboard for the brain, meaning your body will start to give you signals, whether it's menopause or not, that it's under stress before your brain consciously says, hey, I'm really stressed out. I need to practice self-care. And they're subtle. Like for me, it's hair loss, right? I will just be fine, and I'll be like, oh, everything's fine. I'm fine. I'm taking care of myself. And I'll be like, whoa. There'll be like a missing spot here, or I'll be combing my hair and be like, whoa. And for other people, it might be they started to get heartburn again, or they're getting headaches out of nowhere, or they can't sleep. So it's a good time to check in with your body. Okay, is this perimenopause or menopause? Is it that I've been going too hard too long? When's the last time I did my self-care practices? So that real kind of curiosity is really important for women and for men, is what's happening. What's happening here and why, and have I deviated from my self-care? And then for women that are experiencing like hot flashes and night sweats and things like that, discussing with their primary care provider some of the lifestyle things. So cognitive behavioral therapy, clinical hypnosis are some of the non-drug strategies that have been shown by the Menopause Society to be effective. But there's also prescription medications and things if that's something that's of their interest too. So always not being ashamed. Like there was another thing, it was about women often experience bladder issues around midlife. There was something like close to like 60% of women that were having like painful intercourse, or like leaking urine, whether it was when they sneezed, so like a stress incontinence type of thing, or urge, all of a sudden, I gotta go, and like not making it, right? But only like 30% were reporting it to their healthcare provider. So this identified kind of a heartbreaking care gap, right? Like women are struggled, but either they're ashamed, or they think it's not normal, or they're alone and they're not speaking up. So the biggest piece of advice I really have to everybody is share it. Find a healthcare provider that you are comfortable with, that you can really speak up. If anything, you at least can discuss some options and know you're not alone, and if things get worse, you can do it. And this is the same for men. I had read this stat that said approximately 40% of men over the age of 40 may struggle with erectile dysfunction. And again, guess how many are speaking up at their doctor's offices unless asked point blank. So as healthcare providers, we want to do better. We want to make sure the space feels comfortable and inclusive, and we're gently inviting our patients to share things. But I also advocate for every patient to not be shy. Your body is wonderful, and you have all this beautiful good to go and pour into the world for the purpose that you specifically can do. And so don't let like a health condition that you're shy about get in that way. Let's get that cleared up so you have more space to go and serve and do you.
I agree. Definitely speaking up for sure and sharing, because then we can come up with more solutions together, right? So what is the solution for that incontinence? Is there something that we can do or?
Yeah. So incontinence at first would probably be examined as to why. I'm a very big fan of pelvic floor physiotherapy.
Yeah.
And I'm finding when I mention it to people, not everybody's familiar with it. So a lot of people have heard of physiotherapy like general, right? You've hurt your arm or something and they can help. A pelvic floor physiotherapist is a physiotherapist that specializes in the pelvic floor. So it's all those muscles, and it's attached to the rectum. So sometimes if people are leaking stools or leaking bladder, or even having to go frequently or constipated or painful intimacy, all that can come from the pelvic floor. And so with gloved hands and, consent and all that, I've gone to a female practitioner that was wonderful, that will go in and really assess kind of the muscle tone, the function of like everything there, and it can be a game changer. It really can. And then, progressing from that, sometimes there's dryness. We talk about lubrication. I don't usually recommend silicone or coconut oils and things like that. They can increase the risk of yeast infection. So water-based, maybe lubricant for intimacy, and then maybe a vaginal moisturizer that contains hyaluronic acid, and going on from there. For women with severe GSM, genitourinary syndrome of menopause, so that's like brutal dryness, sometimes we're using vaginal estrogen. Like there's so much we can do, non-drug or drug and behavior. But pelvic floor physio is good. I remember the first time I went, and she was like, okay, do a Kegel. And I was like, I got this. And I went, and she was kind of giggling. She was like, Sandra, you squeezed like your face muscles, your butt cheeks, like literally everything except the correct muscles. And I was like, oh.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Now they have those Kegel chairs, right?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
They're pretty cool. I actually tried them as well. And that's another thing too. So please, if you're taking anything from this podcast, is you do not have to suffer in silence. There is something for you to help you for sure out there, and it could be a combination of a few things that can really help to relieve the symptoms that you're having, so that you can live a beautiful life. You don't have to go through this, first of all, alone, and then also like suffering. Like there is just so much out there. So yes, please do your research, connect with the right people, and thank you for sharing this. I knew I wanted to add this in there. So in terms of, I'm just going to go back to your book because it was really, really beautiful to read. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Thanks, Rita.
If the listeners or people watching can walk away with one transformative insight from your book, what would it be?
One main one.
Yeah.
So I would say that we can easily get stuck. And sometimes if we've been hurt or we're in a rut or we're not where we want to be, we kind of get in this rinse and repeat Groundhog Day, right? And so for everyone to kind of ask themselves, am I genuinely living abundantly? Am I living fully? Am I interacting with others? And am I caring for myself and caring for others and enjoying kind of everything this life has to give? And if you don't feel like you are thriving, you are growing, you are moving forward, I would invite you to take one small step at improving your wellness. The results will often pay back in dividends and will spur you to have more and more activities. And even if you find a community, like we learned through the ASSIST program at KMH, it was like a suicide prevention training course that our clinic had did one year, many years ago, and it always stuck with me that the most protective factor, against self-harm was community. So if you don't already belong with a community, can you look up one in your area, whether it's a place of worship or a community center or a bowling league, Tai Chi at the mall, like anything, but can you join others? Because then you're hitting so many birds with one stone, right? When we look at what reduces the risk of dementia and cognitive decline, it's things like exercise, it's things like having a social circle, and so forth. So imagine movement with people, you're talking, you're engaging, you're already hitting two birds with one beautiful stone.
Yes, that's so true. And it's interesting because even in the blue zones, the number one, yes, they're all on beautiful islands. I think they're all, but the number one is that connection. Is connection and purpose. So again, like you said, right? Like just having a purpose and then sharing it with people is so important for longevity, right? And to help you through these tough moments. For me, in terms of the book, the one takeaway was just you've written it so beautiful. Like you had some really tough obviously episodes that you were explaining when what was going on with your partner at the time. But I maybe because I know you a little bit as well, so I knew you're very gregarious, very outgoing, but there was a levity to it, like a lightness that you brought to it, even though the subject was so heavy. And for me, it's a takeaway that no matter how dark of a moment you're having, how heavy it's feeling, just like really find the lightness in the moment can really help you get through it as well. And and it's something that my mom would always have these sayings to us, like, don't worry, like, things will always work out, and you can't always find the solution to everything, so just like just bear with it. And so I found that in the book that you did give so much, I guess it's hope, right?
I was just thinking that as you were talking, I was like, she's talking about hope, and that was huge. That was huge.
Yeah. So that came through for me. It was just, yes, having that hope, but embracing it with that levity, with that lightness, even in the darkest, most heaviest moments in your life. So it was so beautifully written. Thank you.
You're so lovely. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you. So what is the best advice you've ever been given, Sandra?
Ooh, so much. So much good advice, because I really believe every single person you meet, young, old, whatever walk of life, they have something that they can teach you, right? So I meet everybody just happy to learn and happy so I would say everyone I meet has taught me something. One that I would say really impacted me was be who you are and say what you mean, because those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind. So it really has taught me, and that doesn't mean in any way that I'm callous or not caring to what people think. It's not that at all. But I stopped kind of checking myself of what will people say or what they would think. Like, just be your true, authentic self, because the people that matter around you will support you if you're vulnerable, if you're sad, if you're whatever. Don't feel like you have to be like peppy when your heart is shredded because you want to spare the few people. Like, the people that would mind, like, actually don't matter. But the people really who matter in your life, like, have got you. Be you, be beautiful you. You're created so unique, so special, and I would say that has been really encouraging in a society that values likes and affirmations and the view of the world, right? Do right by everyone, have a beautiful heart, be honest, be true, and then don't worry like how that lands. Like, that's not on you.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that. And I find that the older, the wiser we get, I feel like we get more comfortable in our skin. And then,
yes,
like when you get to my parents' age, the stuff my dad says, and I'm like, I can't believe you just said that, but hey, you know what? I can't wait till I'm that age, and then I can say it too. Yes. So I really do, right? Invite people to just embrace it even earlier, right?
Love that.
Because it is so liberating. It's so liberating to live in that authentic state all the time. So I know we sort of touched up on this a little bit, but maybe if you were to boil it down, what are your top 3 non-negotiable self-care habits that you do on a daily basis.
Okay. In no particular order, I have my wind down before sleep. Like, for sure, I prioritize my sleep.
My wine.
No. I don't have wine, actually. No, my wind down. Yeah, which is, I guess, the equivalent to how people feel about their wine. But for me, that wind down, I got a blanket. I always have a book. Like, so good. Hot shower, that whole thing. So my wind down and sleep, non-negotiable. Movement of some form is non-negotiable. So even if it's not like a workout day, it'll be active recovery. There's good research that shows people that sit like for work, that got up every 45 minutes and just did 10 body squats. So not 10 minutes, it takes probably a minute. 10 body squats were lowering their insulin and stabilizing their blood sugar. So moving in some way or form every day, and connecting to my faith. So whether that's prayer, whether that's reading the Bible, whether it's listening to worship music, for me, those three things are non-negotiable. And then and I do as much of them as I can with people I love. So that might mean that, part of my wind down is having a chat with the family about how their day went, or movement might be with a friend, that kind of thing.
Yeah, including them. That's beautiful. I like that. And your sort of habits like stacking, you're doing one, stacking another one on top of that, so that you combine it, and yes, it's a lot more effective for sure.
Yes.
So, Sandra, what is your legacy? What do you want to be known for?
I would love if people remembered nothing about me except the fact that I encouraged them or helped them to feel empowered. So there's that, I think her name is Maya Angelou. And she said something like, people forget like the words and the stats and, all the stuff you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. So if someone were to ever, oh yeah, her, right? She was really kind. She hugged me. She encouraged me. She shared her story, and it made me realize like, hey, I can do that too, right? I had that hope.
Well, we met very briefly, and you've left such a beautiful impression on me,
and you as well for me.
Your soul. So yes, you're definitely on your way to leaving this legacy for sure. So where can people connect with you if they want to work with you, if they want to follow you, get to know you a little more, just be in your circle? Sure.
So I have my website is www.stgwellness.ca, and on Instagram it's at @stg_wellness. Those are probably the best few places to start, and I can't wait to meet you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Sandra. This has been so lovely. We've touched upon many, many topics in just not even an hour. So I just want to thank you for those golden nuggets, those tips, sharing your journey, your experiences. Keep doing what you're doing, because you are inspiring so many people, and it's just like you're just glowing just because you're doing what you love. So I'm just so grateful that our paths have crossed.
Me too, honey.
I can't wait to maybe do one of your classes and engage in other ways. But yeah, I definitely want to be in your circle too. So
me too. Thank you so much for this invite. You are just so full of love and just such a generous heart, and I'm really grateful to have spent this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of the day.
You too. Bye, my friend.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Care Goddess podcast. If today's episode inspired you, share it with another woman who's ready to reclaim her vitality and lead from within. To continue your journey, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me on ritasavoya.com. Until next time, remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's your superpower. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and keep rising. Ciao for now.